Imagine being Peyton Manning, January 21st, 2007, in the AFC Championship game down 21-3 to your greatest rival. You've already thrown a pick six, and in the next 2 quarters, you will either cement your reputation as one of the greatest playoff underachievers in NFL history or deliver one of the most iconic playoff comebacks of all time.
We have just witnessed the largest comeback ever in a conference championship game.
But this story doesn't start here. It begins 365 days earlier in the aftermath of yet another crushing playoff loss. The Pittsburgh Steelers had just ended the Colts season with a 21-18 victory, and although the Colts had a chance to win the game after a Jerome Bettis goal line fumble, Manning couldn't finish the job. The critics were everywhere because at 30 years old, Manning was still trying to prove he wasn't just a regular season quarterback. He walked out of that Pittsburgh stadium with yet another playoff failure hanging over his head. That loss hurt more than most because this time the defense had done their job. They made a huge play giving Manning, the Sheriff, a chance to command that game, but he failed once again. What would happen in 2006 though? Well, he would eliminate all doubt.
See the Colts of Indianapolis win Super Bowl 41.
But how did we get here? What changed? Because up until that point, the regular season had become another formality for the Colts. They had won at least 12 games every year since 2003. And the difference this time was
Manning diving for it and touchdown for the tie, the pass. It is caught and the game is tied.
Putting the Pittsburgh loss behind them, week 1 of the 2006 regular season had arrived. The Colts faced the New York Giants, and this was Manning's first chance to show the football world that this year was different, as he defeats his brother in the Manning Bowl, finishing with 276 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. An okay start to the season with the Colts winning 26-21, but we wouldn't see how dangerous Manning could be until week 2. Manning was still battling the narrative that he couldn't win in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he was unstoppable. He completed 26 of 28 passes for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 43-24 demolition, reading the defense like a surgeon, but the real statement came in week 9. The New England Patriots, one of the teams that had haunted him in the playoffs for a very long time now. But this time around, Manning got the last laugh. 20 completions on 36 attempts, 326 yards, 2 touchdowns with 1 interception. The Colts won 27-20. Manning had beaten Brady for just the 2nd time in his career. And with that win, confidence surged in the Colts offense. They could score on anybody, anytime, anywhere. But what about the defense?
14 unanswered to close it out for Dallas.
They asked me how would I characterize the defense, and I said, well, we just played a little soft against the run.
Unless they figure a way to stop the run, I don't even want to look forward to the end of this year. This is not good. It is not a pretty picture. It has gotten absolutely out of control.
The team's run defense ranked dead last in the NFL, and everyone knew it.
Super Bowl was the last thing on anyone's mind after a Week 14 loss to Jacksonville. The Colts were torched for 375 yards on the ground.
The conversation shifted. Can you win a Super Bowl with the worst run defense in football? No team had ever done it. To make matters worse, the offense was starting to slow down. But 1 week later, under the Monday Night Lights, Manning reminded the world exactly who he was.
Manning throws to Harrison, touchdown. Manning caught and has caught 2 tonight. Make it 3. Manning to Reggie Wayne. What a throw! Peyton Manning, for the 15th time in his career, throws 4 touchdown passes. Only Marino, Favre, and Unitas have done that more often.
4 touchdowns, 0 fear. The Colts won that game 34-16. The panic erased, but the problems weren't gone. The Colts lost the next game to the Houston Texans, giving up another 191 rushing yards. Even with Manning's efficient 21-27 and 3 touchdowns with no interceptions, it wasn't enough. They did bounce back with a 27-22 win over Miami to close out the regular season, but the glaring issue was still the same. Peyton Manning's 2006 regular season was an absolute masterclass in precision and poise. 4,397 passing yards, second in the NFL, 31 touchdowns, just 9 interceptions, 65% completion percentage, a 101 passer rating. But more importantly, he had 4 fourth quarter comebacks, 3 of those being game-winning drives, moments that we would soon see in the playoffs. When critics said that he would crumble, he rose. His supporting cast, also great. Harrison had 95 catches for 1,366 yards. Wayne had 86 receptions for 1,310 yards. And when things got tight, Dallas Clark became a steady outlet, posting 30 catches for 367 yards and 4 touchdowns even while battling injury, helping the Colts finish with a 12-4 record. But the real test, the playoffs, were still ahead. And that's where Manning's legacy had always fallen short. Before 2006, Manning's playoff resume was ugly. 3 wins, 6 losses, 15 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 0 Super Bowl appearances. There was the 4 interception disaster in 2003 in the AFC Championship game, the 3-point collapse in 2004, and the missed field goal heartbreak in 2005. He was called a great regular season quarterback, the man who could not win the big one, and overrated, but Manning was ready to eliminate that narrative. The 2006 playoffs started at home versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Everyone expected Manning to carry them, but it was the defense that stepped up. After being the worst run defense all year, they held Larry Johnson to just 32 yards rushing. Manning wasn't perfect. 30 of 38, 268 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, but Joseph Adai ran for 122 yards. Adam Vinatieri nailed 3 field goals. The Colts would go on to win 23-8. Ugly? Yes, but a win is a win. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens, the 13-3 Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore against Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. The offense didn't score a single touchdown, but Vinatieri hit 5 field goals. The defense held on strong once again. No touchdowns, no highlights, but a gritty road win, something Peyton Manning had never done before. Okay, we finally made it to January 21st, 2007. Manning's kryptonite, the Patriots. They ended his season in 2003 and 2004. Brady was 2-0 versus him in the playoffs, and at halftime it looked like 3-0 was just on the horizon. The Colts trailed 21-3 before ending the half with a field goal. Manning had thrown a pick 6 to Asante Samuel.
Manning's pass is intercepted. It's Asante Samuel going in untouched.
The offense only scored 3 points in the first half. The RCA Dome was dead silent. But what happened next was a legacy-defining moment. Manning came out of the tunnel a different man. And with one more chance to take the lead in the ball game down 34-31, the Colts would have the ball on the 20-yard line, and the drive would be magical. A completion of 11 yards to Reggie Wayne. Brian Fletcher with a 32-yard catch. Reggie is open yet again, which puts the Colts in the red zone.
Roughing the passer, number 95, hitting the quarterback in the helmet.
Close enough for rookie Joseph Adai to go for the win.
Running play, Adai walks in for the touchdown.
But the ball game was not yet over because Brady still had a chance, a guy who had plenty of clutch moments already. And with 1 minute left against the Colts defense, the Patriots looked to score.
Has Watson to the 40. Left open is Evans in the middle of the field. I don't even think Peyton's going to watch. Intercepted. Colts are going to the Super Bowl.
The defense of the Colts and Peyton Manning has stepped up in a huge way. Manning went 14-23 for 225 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 1 QB sneak for a touchdown. Led a 80-yard game-winning drive. The Colts defense came up huge after a Marlon Jackson interception to seal the deal. The final would be Colts 38, Patriots 34. As Manning finished 27-47, 349 yards, 1 passing and 1 rushing touchdown. However, it was about more than just the numbers. Peyton Manning had finally answered the call in the most important moment. He showed up when it mattered most. But now, the stage was set in Miami, a fittingly dramatic rain-soaked night. The Colts, the team that had defied every postseason demon, faced the formidable Chicago Bears in the Super Bowl. But right from the opening whistle, it felt like a familiar nightmare was brewing.
It's Hester Trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown.
Electrifying rookie Devin Hester took the very first kickoff 92 yards to the house. A direct hit to the heart of every Colts fan who've watched Peyton Manning pass postseason heartbreaks. It looked like the script for failure was already being written again, but this time it was different. This was Peyton Manning, the man who had stared down his critics and conquered his ultimate rival just weeks before. There was no panic, no crumbling under pressure. Manning simply took a deep breath, gathered his offense, and went to work. He led a balanced, methodical attack, controlling the tempo despite the slick conditions. He threw for 247 yards and a touchdown, orchestrating drives that slowly but surely chipped away at the Bears' early lead and then seized control of the game. The defense, which had miraculously transformed through the playoffs, held strong, ensuring Hester's early heroics were a one-time affair. The final whistle blew, the scoreboard read Colts 29, Bears 17. The years of frustration, the whispers, the agonizing playoff exits all disappeared in an instant. Peyton Manning wasn't just a regular season wonder anymore. He was a Super Bowl champion. And in the pouring Miami rain, holding that Lombardi trophy, he was also a Super Bowl MVP. The 2006 season changed everything. Manning wasn't just a stat king anymore. He had conquered the playoffs, had beaten Brady, and had won it all. But the truth is, this was not the greatest playoff run stat-wise for Peyton Manning. A Bob Sanders-led defense, along with Rex Grossman, deserve a lot of credit for that Super Bowl win. However, up until this point, Manning had yet to have that moment. And against the Patriots, he finally achieved that. Because this season wasn't just about a ring. It was about redemption, about silencing every critic, about proving that greatness isn't always about perfection. Sometimes it's about fighting through the scars and finishing the job. Peyton Manning didn't just win a Super Bowl in 2006. He rewrote his trajectory, and in doing so, he became the sheriff. For real.